How are you, everybody? I hope you're having a great time. I know I am. Today is a fantastic show. We are going to present a lot of information to you, talk to you a lot about what's going on in my personal life and what's going on in the life of small businesses all over the country right now. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm so happy that you're here with us. I hope that you're going to get a lot out of today's program. We're going to be covering everything you need to know about how to put together a winning team strategy, how to make sure that your team is executing on a high level and stays there. It's important to know how to win. It's even more important to know how to keep winning over and over and over and over again. And there's some key rules and some key ideas that you have to put in place. So now I know a lot of you have been following everything we've been doing in the last several weeks as we've been covering the 9 steps to masterful performance. You need to know how to do that. You need to know how to step. Today is the most important day. It's step number 9. It is the last most important piece you have to put in and put together to develop and keep developing exceptionally high performing teams. Now, those of you may have an idea about why that's so important. We're going to cover that as soon as we get into today's meeting. Hopefully, I don't know how this is going to work, but hopefully we'll have a couple of guests that will come through today that they haven't signed on yet, so I have to make sure that they do that right. This is going to be a great show. We're going to be talking about execution. We're going to be talking about the 9 steps of development. We're going to talk about how to tell and maintain great story selling processes when you develop your team. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a good time. Today is an exceptionally special day for me, and we're going to talk to you a little more about that after the break. And we're going to do a quick little commercial break and come right back and get right back into the action. Here we go. Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to Coffee, Tea, You, and Me. I've been doing this show for so long. I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun, and I've been able to develop so many things for small minority and women-owned businesses out there in the universe. Hopefully, you all are appreciating a lot of what we put together. If you do me a favor and make sure that you are checking all the buttons that you need to check, like, post, share, do all the beautiful things you need to do to keep this stuff going and keep us in front of you. I really appreciate you. I got to say goodbye to my wife and daughter. They're headed out of the house right now. Good to see you guys. Love you. Bye-bye. And today's show is pretty special. We're going to be talking today about execution strategy. How do you develop and maintain the right type of execution strategy for high-performing teams? It's critically important. So if you've been following everything we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, we've been leading up to this point right here. Every leader that is not following the 9 steps that we just shared with you all over the last 2 weeks, and if you need to go back and take the refresher courses, guess what? They're all posted and recorded on Facebook and YouTube for you to go back and check it out with all the links and all the great tools and that we've created for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. But anyhow, today we're talking about execution, talking about positive execution strategy and how you can maintain high levels of execution with your team. For those of you all who know me, you know I do training and development in my sleep. I create all kinds of programs and processes, try to make things available for small business owners that they can use, that are tangible and they can take away with and create right now. So let's get into the show. A couple things we want to talk about when it comes to execution, and we're going to talk about all of these things today. We're going to talk about how do you create a championship level team and how do you keep them going. We're going to talk about how your team needs to embrace their collective strength and interdependence. These are key words that are very, very important to developing an amazing team. We're also going to talk about how you can overcome individual as well as collective invulnerability. How do you do that? We're going to talk about getting and staying together. How do you do that? We're going to talk about the primary things that you need to commit to the group effort. How you work with each other and how do you invite forgiveness into your process. And then how do you create a more formidable capacity where the team can work better together. We're going to then get into how do you get to literally uncommon results in achievement, and what is required to create the kind of psychological safety that you need to have in order to put the team together and keep it together. We might get into some of the formal strategies and techniques that are out there, some of the research that's out there. We might not, depends on how much time and how much conversation we get going on. But the whole goal every time we always do Coffee Tea, You and Me is to create engagement. I love to have the audience feedback. I love to have you checking in to what we're doing. I invite you to join into the comment section, put whatever information that you have out there, whatever thing you're thinking. If there's something that you want to share with the listening audience, this is a business-friendly show, so definitely share your websites, your communication, your anything that you could do to highlight your business and some of the things you're working on. We want to hear about it, so feel free to share. This is where you can get your shout outs and where you can get everything you need in order to create a little bit more buzz about your business, maybe put it in front of people that you want to get in front of. And so it's just a great opportunity for all small businesses. Let's make sure we take advantage of what we have and work well together, right? That's what it's all about. Okay, let's get into the first thing you've got to think about when it comes to creating high performance execution strategies that really, really, really work. Let's talk about this for a second. Why do you want to have a high performing team? And I'm of the opinion that it really doesn't matter whether you are a solopreneur or if you have a small business where you have a couple of employees or you have hundreds of employees and contractors and subcontractors and people that are working with you in your organization to perform. Knowing how to work with the team dynamics is going to allow you, no matter where you are, no matter in your business, to make sure that you always have the support that you need. And in order to do that well, you're going to have to learn a couple of key terms and learn a couple of key strategies that lead to basically two areas. There are two areas of improvement that every high performance team has to always consistently make. One is in the area of efficiency and one is in the area of effectiveness. You need both efficiency and effectiveness to run a high-powered team. So efficiency requires discipline, orderliness, competence, and productivity. It is the quality that helps you achieve the maximum results with extraordinarily little effort or expense. You want to be able to control the amount of effort and the amount of expense you use to get to maximum levels of efficiency. Because if you don't, if somehow you are overexerting your team or you are overexerting your budgets, then you're creating a deficit that is going to slow you down, become a wasted resource, and will eventually be the demise of your team, because people are going to start to see that they're not working at peak levels, and everybody wants to work at peak levels. Everybody wants to be on the winning team, and the winning team is an efficient team, a team that is not consistently, I should say. You can win and be awful inefficient. Don't get me wrong with that. Now, you could do a couple things. You can phone it in for the quarter. You can do pretty good, maybe 2 or 3 quarters. But you cannot, as a habit on a team, do inefficient work. You have to be efficient. The second thing you got to think about is effectiveness. Now, teams that are effective really, really know how to work together really well. They know how to work together to create results that are not just high performance results, but are meaningful, relevant, and significant. This is the key to all of the soft skills when we talk about how we talk to each other, how we communicate effectively with one another. How do we do it in a way that is potent, that is powerful, that increases our levels of productivity? It's an amazing, palpable feeling when you are on a winning team and every person on the team is fully engaged, fully connected. This will allow you to accomplish things that have really significant magnitude and weight. You will be able to accomplish products and services that are valuable, not just to the market that you serve, but to one another. You will know that you're contributing something meaningful and valuable. So, how do we test these things? How do we test if your team is being more efficient? And one of the things you need to do, or a couple of questions you might want to ask, are questions like these. Are we doing the best we can with all of the resources at our disposal? When you know you're doing the best we can, and everybody on the team understands this, that they're doing the best they can with all the resources at their disposal, then you may be looking at, peak team efficiency, right? Do we manage our collective time, talent, and treasure? I call these the T3 resources well. When you know for a fact that everybody is giving it their all, they're managing their time well, they have the right amount of talent, and they're looking at the budgets and the resources, the financial resources they have, and they're maximizing the uses of those financial resources, then again, your team may be operating at high levels of efficiency. The last question you need to think about when it comes to efficiency is this one. What can be done to increase your organizational discipline and your professional competence? Organizations that work at maximum efficiency and stay at maximum efficiency are always looking to double down on organizational discipline, making sure that they're doing everything, that the time schedules are working right, everything is being done at the appropriate level, right? And there's competence everywhere. Everywhere you need to have higher levels of competence, you have higher levels of competence. And I want you to pay attention to these things because we're going to be talking about these in deeper, give you deeper examples of this in a little bit later. We talked about efficiency. Now let's talk about effectiveness. How do you know your team is operating at high levels of effectiveness? Well, you'll be able to answer, again, 3 quality questions to let you know that your team is operating at high levels of effectiveness. Question number 1, how well are we providing value to one another and to our well-described chosen marketplace? How well are we providing value to one another and to our well-defined, described, talked about, written about, chosen niche marketplace? If you can't get to it, if you can't really wrap your mind around who you are and how you serve your niche markets, then you're going to have a hard time knowing that you're providing the value that you want to provide. And so you have to keep answering that question over and over again. When you have your time to sit back and reflect on what you're doing, you want to ask that question. How are we actually providing value? To whom are we providing the most value? Is there anything we could do to increase the offerings and the value that we're doing, right? Question number 2, where does our customer or service area feedback results suggest that improvements may be made? I can't stress to you enough how important this exactly is when it comes to team effectiveness. Your team has to be a feedback maven monster. You literally have to be able to collect and assess feedback from every possible area that you can possibly get feedback from, all to get better. You need to use feedback in order to get better, because feedback is your real-time, high-quality information that's going to help you improve everything that you're doing. Now, you may get feedback that you might resent, all right? Your team might get feedback that it doesn't like, but even that is good feedback because it's letting you know that there might be something out there in the universe that you should be paying attention to, that you might be taking for granted. There might be a group of people or a group of a potential service market area, or there might be some things that you might be able to do internally to address a problem that you didn't even see. But because you're paying attention to all the feedback, then you get the best chance. In fact, by the way, your entire team needs to be paying attention to all the feedback and sharing their ideas and results of how they can resolve maybe issues that might pop up. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do everything that happens when it comes to feedback, but we'll talk about that later. The third question is, what evidence can you provide that suggests that your offerings are of exceptionally high quality? What evidence can you provide that suggests that your offerings are of exceptionally high quality? And again, back to the feedback argument, your feedback is evidence that things are working well or things are not working not so well. And your ability to get more and more feedback in the form of endorsements, recommendations, any type of, connections that people might be willing to make for you. Anytime somebody might be willing to support you, and throw in their time, talent, and treasure to help you get to where you want to go. That's the kind of feedback that suggests that you're doing really well. And here's why. We all want to engage and work with and play with winners. When you're winning, people seek you out. When you're winning, you're attractive to the best of the best. When you're winning, you're doing everything you need to do to maintain high levels of execution and high levels of performance. So what gets in the way, guys? Let's break it down. Let's just talk about some of the true things that keep us and our teams from performing well. One of the things that I recognize as I start to study and teach and train people on collaboration is that collaboration is absolutely necessary to create a winning team and maintain a high performance team, but it's also one of the most difficult things to do, personally and collectively. And here's why. I see we got some new people signing on to the show. If you're new to the show, or if you're just signing on, don't worry about it. Do me a favor and put your name in the chat so that we can identify you and talk to you. If there's some question that you may have, feel free to jump in with any questions that you may have. I look forward to helping respond to those questions, and we'll try to do what we can to put your question up on the screen if possible. Or if it's something that you want us to know about your business, if you want us to know how to contact you, what your business does, or whatever that is, go ahead again, put that information in the chat. Even if you're just saying, hey, I want to say hi from Texas or wherever you're from, put that information in the chat. We want to make sure that we're responsive and we're engaged even during the training process. We were talking about high performance teams and what you need to do to avoid some of the traps and the pitfalls that high performance teams get into. And so with that, I want to read something to you that I think is critically important. If you've taken a look at my LinkedIn post over the last couple of days, one of the posts I made, I really, really wanted to make sure that I identified some of the key leaders that are out there already that are talking about the things that can make your team dynamics go just in the wrong direction, right? It's critically important that we acknowledge that, there is actually emotional and social pathology that may keep us from moving high performance teams in a different level. And there's an article I want you to download and read by David Clayson called The Neuroscience of Winning and Losing. And in that document, I'm going to say Professor Clayson because he's probably a professor. I think he is associated with a college. I don't know if he's got a PhD, but he's definitely associated with a couple of colleges and university and leadership, executive leadership programs. Professor Clayson suggests that there are a few crystal clear things that we need to make sure that we avoid when we're talking about dealing with people and communicating effectively with people, especially using the collaborative model. So many of us are familiar with the SCARF model, right? This is all about the things that cause us pause when we're working with other people, the things that cause us to feel like we personally and individually are being threatened, right? And the SCARF model is another acronym which stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Again, status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And Dr. Clayson has blessed me with sharing all of his articles about all the different aspects of the SCARF model from Dr. Rock and how that might play out in our everyday concerns. And just one of the things I want to pull out from you is just dealing with this issue of status. How does status affect our ability to lead? How does it affect our ability to be successful on the team? How does it affect our ability to work together to create a high performance team? And it is a critically important understanding to get to and get your mind around. Let's first of all, let's acknowledge some facts. We are literally always competing and measuring ourselves against one another. Let me say it again. We are always naturally, it's a human trait of ours to always compete and measure ourselves against one another. When we do that, we find, or based on our perceptions, we find that we think we're either better or worse than the individual that we're looking at, talking to, sharing with, whatever that is. We're finding ourselves, our status is either being reinforced as a superior one, or it's being challenged as an inferior one. This is a very, very difficult aspect of our humanity to undo and reckon with and deal with. And I'm going to give you some techniques and some lessons on how to do it and how to help others do it. Because this is a golden key that you have to get to when it comes to creating and maintaining a high performance team. So let's talk about status. What do you want, right? You want everyone to feel like they belong. You want everyone to feel like their contributions are meaningful. You want everyone to feel like it's a safe place. You're establishing a safe place for them to exist. Now, all that sounds great when you talk about it, when you think about it, right? Of course you want people to belong. Of course you want people to feel like they're connected. Of course you want people to feel safe sharing their ideas and communicating and being a part of it. You want all those. But then there's also the work to be done. There's the deadlines to be met. There's the actual performance to happen. And there are things that people may bring to the table that could be derailing that performance. And I will tell you, if whatever a person is bringing to the table to a high performance team is something that they're dealing with, it's something that the team has no choice but to deal with if they are to maintain their high performance levels. Let me say that again in a better way. You cannot afford on a high performance team to have somebody feeling anxiety and depression and the things that they're dealing with on a personal level, because it will affect their performance on the team, and it will also affect how the team performs in other people's performance on the team. And so whatever it is can spread, whatever negative thing that's going on with another person that's allowing them to not focus on being and engaging and fully committing to the team, works against the functioning of the team, right? You can say to yourself all you want, I am a collaborative leader. But if you can't get your team to collaborate well, consistently, are you really and truly a collaborative leader? So you have to think about that when you're and this is why a lot of times people don't put teams together. This is exactly why people don't want to work with other people, because other people may make them feel fear, shame, blame. There may be a negative attitude. There might be some haters out there that they have to work with. And I don't know about you, but I have always felt in many team environments that I've got to play on that I don't quite fit in the team. And When people don't feel like they fit or they feel threatened in any way, it's impossible for them to consciously deliver their best performance, right? You need to be relaxed to do your best performance. You need to know that you're in a safe space to deliver your best performance. You need to feel like you belong in order to deliver your best performance. So I have to say, there are certain groups of individuals on this planet who routinely don't feel like they belong. And they're usually called minorities. And Warren is absolutely right. Interdependence is the key. Um, I do think, though, that people don't quite understand what interdependence is and how to value it. Because when something has to really get done on any team, I've seen it happen over and over again. I'm looking for audience feedback on this one. Maybe some of you have experienced this. When something really has to get done and it desperately needs to get done, do you find that the whole team leans in with all guns blazing, or do you find that maybe one or two people carry the torch? Right? If you understand the Pareto Principle, if you heard it, use it before in your life, and you recognize that studies show that 80% of the work that gets done on any team within any organization is usually done by 20% of the people. Now, if you reduce that to, you're talking about small organizations where maybe it's a solopreneur out there or one person out there. You can think about that from a micro level, a singular solo level. If an individual, even a high producing individual, is only producing at 80% tops, what would happen if we could nudge that performance up by another 20%? What would happen if we could take away all the things that make it difficult for individuals to perform at extremely high levels? Right? It would mean that everybody has to be thinking about this word that Warren brought up, this interdependence word, and how you're going to use interdependence as a platform for maximizing success. Right? Now, here's the thing. When you start thinking like this, when you start developing teams that truly function around interdependence, there has to be a tremendously high level of respect and understanding for both the strengths and the weaknesses of everyone on the team. Now, why do you think I say that we have a healthy respect for weaknesses? If you haven't thought about it, please put it in the chat. I really want to discuss this. I really want to see where our audience is engaged and our audience is thinking about this, because I have some things in mind that I've already studied and researched, but I kind of want to know what you think. Why should we think about each other's and understand each other's weaknesses on any team that we're participating on, whether we're the leader or we're just a member of the team? Why is that critical? What do you think? Let me hear your thoughts. You might be dialing in from the phone, but take a moment to put it in the chat if you can, or either on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll take a look at it and we'll post it, just like we posted Warren's comments here earlier. By the way, Warren is an amazing guy. If you haven't a chance to meet Warren Gray, I have to think you should do it. Click on the links right here that I'm sharing with you, and you can get back to his Facebook page and start talking or chatting with Warren. Warren is an amazing, I call him my brother from down under. He's really an amazing guy, and I love him dearly. Thanks for coming on the show, Warren, today, and thanks for being here. If you get a chance to, share some more, enlighten us with some more of your leadership knowledge, I'd love to have your ideas. Okay, we're talking about weaknesses right now. And I'm looking for the chat. I'm seeing if anybody's participating. People are being shy out there. Here's what we've been doing since I can remember studying leadership back in my ROTC days at Kent State University, we're talking about leadership, and we usually talk about how to manage our deficiencies, right? We talk about trying to make sure that when we are in charge or responsible for a team, we want to find out what the weaknesses of our team are so we could manage those deficiencies and figure out how we could put together risk mitigation strategies against those deficiencies. And so here's what tends to happen. You'll have a team member who is, falling behind in some area, and you'll notice it and you'll go, okay, we need to fix that. And so I'm going to make you go to some different training, or I'm going to make you work with somebody who actually has gotten this together, and you're going to improve. Now, what do you think happens to a person's feelings about their status as a team member, as a human being, when they get called out for their weaknesses, usually publicly, by the way, and get assigned or lose their assignment to somebody else who could, quote unquote, do that job better? What happens to the status of that individual? Do you think that person may feel threatened? Do you think that person may feel a little bit less than? Like they maybe are drawing the short end of the stick, or they're the weak link on the team, or they don't really matter. In fact, they're slowing the whole team down. Is that possible that that person could feel that way? And can you have that? Based on what we already said, right? Can you depend on somebody who has weaknesses that are slowing the whole team down? Does that help you with this notion of interdependence? Right? And so let's think about that. Warren is sharing. He says, not one man or woman who has lived on earth did not need the support at some stage. I'm going to challenge you, Warren, and I think that's a wonderful discussion to have, but I think it's old school. And old school, nothing wrong with old school. But I'm going to challenge some of the things that you said that need support at some stage. I'm going to say we need support at every stage. And there is no stage of our development where we run out of the need for support. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. But if you are in the mindset of continuous improvement, you're never going to be able to do that continuous improvement alone. And there's something that's been going on in our business community, in our business world since forever, that suggests this game of entrepreneurship or success, or whatever you want to call it, is a game of survival of the fittest. And it is not. Because when somebody is at the other end of somebody else's success, then that person is a loser. That team is a losing team. And our ability, we talked about this earlier, our willingness to not look at each other as competitive, look at each other as the measurement of our growth or satisfaction or status gets in the way, right? When we can stop measuring each other against each other, but start to measure ourselves against our former selves, like the person we were yesterday. Are we better today? And if other people can help us look at how we've grown from yesterday into today, now it becomes what we need to do to actually support one another. Because if I'm supporting you and my support for you looks like I need you to I need to get rid of your deficiencies, and I need you to look like me or be like me, because I am the perfect example, the model, it almost suggests that I'm a finished product, which I'm not. And it also may suggest to you that I'm better as a human being, not just as a person with a certain skill set or a person with a certain understanding or experience and a certain wisdom. And so therefore, my wisdom doesn't get respected because my humanness is disrespectful. I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about there. And this is back to the argument of effectiveness and efficiency. We've opted in our society many times for efficiency because efficiency is easy to measure. We've thrown effectiveness out the window because effectiveness requires a whole understanding and human dimension that is more difficult and more cumbersome, more tiresome, requires more communication for us to truly embrace. But it is, in my opinion, what we have to embrace if we hope to actually keep teams working in a collaborative way over the long term. It is literally impossible for us to do differently and hope for better results. So I want to take a moment here to celebrate a couple things, because now that my daughter's out of the house and she can't hear me talking about her, I am beaming with pride today because my beautiful daughter, Kayla Powell, just turned in her last few assignments that she needed to turn in to finish up her graduation requirements from Howard University. And I'm not a Howard University graduate. I'm not even an alum, but I am a supporter of the Bison World, HU, making sure we do that. And I'm super excited about, what's going to happen for my beautiful daughter's future. She's joining a long list of Howard theater alum, and she's going to be a part of the administration. She's coming out with an administration degree or a theater administration degree. And so she's going to be a chance to get involved, and she's already getting involved and making connections in that world. That's going to make sure that her future has a trajectory that is amazing. And I'm so excited and I'm so proud of her. So I wanted to share that with you guys live, because you are all my friends, and this COVID-19 thing has kind of kept me out of the social loops that I'm usually in, but I'm able to do that. Last thing I want to share with you, switching the hats. Guess what? Boom. Today is my anniversary of my fraternity, and my fraternity brothers, 4 of us together, were initiated on December 3rd, 1987. And so I think I did the math. It's 33 years. In 2 years, we've got our 35th anniversary. We've been a part of this group, and I've been so proud to be a Phi Beta Sigma man, to be counted among some of the great ones in our society, like Congressman Eudolphus Towns and Congressman John Lewis, and the many hosts of astronauts, and even former President Bill Clinton is a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. And so I'm so happy to be counted among some of the great men in the universe, and I'm proud of this moment. So this is our special day. A shout out to all of my line brothers, my fraternity brothers, my Sands, and those of us who came out of Epsilon chapter at Kent State University, Mau, keeping it live and keeping it real for you guys. So I just want to give you a little bit of a personal thing. This has been a great day for me. I've been getting congratulations all over the internet and everywhere and everything about so many different things. So, I've been blessed, and I don't know why God does it for me, but he continues to do that for me all the time. Back to coffee, tea, you and me. Okay. So we're talking about leadership, right? We're talking about how to make sure that teams meet and teams grow and teams collectively continue to do the things they need to do to move themselves forward. And, it's an amazing opportunity today to start to understand the undercurrent of it all, the undercurrent of what has to happen today, specifically because we're doing so much online work together. We're doing so much new things. So many new things are coming to the universities, hybrid models that corporations and companies are coming back to. And it has to be clear that no matter what we do with technology, there's basic ideas that are undercurrents to our feelings and our emotions as human beings that technology is not going to be able to solve, but we still have to be aware that those things we're still dealing with those things. Because what happens? We're talking about threat state earlier. When we find ourselves on the losing end of things, and we find ourselves feeling like our status is challenged, our brains are naturally hardwired, right, to accept and to deal with this loss. We're starting to feel like not only have we lost in a moment, we're feeling like we are losers. And this is the beginning of all kinds of depressive and anxiety producing episodes that make us disengage from the things and the people that help us feel this way. And as our brain develops, the limbic system starts to create synapses based on the intensity and the frequency of whatever experiences we're having. We're locking in a level of performance that's based on that the negative input, or we're locking in a level of performance that's based on a level of positive input. And that's why it's important for us not to, when we're talking to each other, concentrate on our deficits, concentrate on our weaknesses. I'm not saying we should ignore the weaknesses, but I'm saying be very careful in how you deal with weaknesses, and also make sure you're very careful about how you deal with what we consider the positives in every individual when it comes to leadership. Let me give you an example of that. Has anybody ever given you compliments that you feel that you're not worthy of, right? If anybody's ever given you compliments that kind of make you embarrassed, or you're feeling like you're not really worthy of that compliment, and maybe they even did that in public, how did you feel when that happened? If you're like most people, you feel exactly like I just explained. You feel like you're unworthy of this attention. You're unworthy of, frankly, the compliment. You may even feel like the people that are giving you the compliment are lying to you and to your friends, right? Should you feel that way? When you're on a team, should you feel bad about the team leader or another team member saying, "Attaboy, you did a great job. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you brought to the table during this last performance or during this last phase of execution that we were in"? Should you feel humiliated? Should you feel like they obviously don't know you? Because I know how that's a lot. I've heard and I've experienced that myself. A lot of professionals that I work with, a lot of professionals that I deal with, feel exactly that. And a part of it is they don't know how to take a compliment. And a part of it is the compliment might be unfounded, right? But wouldn't it be nice to know that you don't have to worry about that? Because when somebody says to you, genuinely, authentically, gives you respect, affection, and praise in public, wouldn't it be nice to know that you freaking deserve it? Wouldn't it be nice to know that these are the flowers that you have gotten while you live? But now, you might be wondering, well, yeah, how do I get there? Here's the trick. You don't get there alone. Because even if you tell yourself, "I'm the greatest thing since sliced cheese," right? And you have that mantra every day. "I'm the greatest thing since sliced cheese. I'm the best that there's ever been. I'm one of the supermen in this industry, and I'm going to be even better and better and better every day." Even if you gave yourself that mantra and you actually turned those affirmation statements that we should use, by the way, into a belief system that could support you when the evidence outside of you is contrary to that, what do you think wins over time? Is it your positive affirmations that win over time? Or is it evidence around you, the negative feedback that's coming from everybody that you're working with, everybody that you're interacting with? How long do you think you could sustain this lie to yourself with your positive affirmation statement before the evidence of the universe comes crushing down on you and wins the day, starting to affect your self-confidence, your self-concept, your personal belief system, the value you may have in your own contributions. All that stuff starts to dissipate when your boss, your coworkers, your funding sources, your clients, people who are stakeholders in whatever it is you're bringing to the table start to reflect negatively back at you. How long can you sustain it? How long can you keep moving forward? How long before depression and anxiety begins to set in? How long before you start to isolate and feel like you don't belong and you shouldn't belong? How long? I will tell you, human beings, the science is in on this. We are so susceptible to changes and shifts in our status as a result of how others speak to us and give us feedback on what we do. We're so susceptible and so weak, even the strongest of us. And I shouldn't even say weak. We're human. We're not weak. We're human. And we all need respect, affection, and praise. Now, I wrote about this in a program called the RAP Approach. And for those of you who are interested in the RAP Approach, you can probably find an article or two on LinkedIn that mentions it. And then you could go back and read those articles, and I detail the whole process. But it's a process that I introduced to the Roundtable, which is an organization that I run and I'm a part of with my co-founder, Darren Marcourt. And the RAP Approach is something that we actually teach and have entrepreneurs and business leaders to pay attention to, because we know it's a part of the execution of a high performance team. If you have a high performance team, if you watch them, they're always congratulating each other. They're always giving each other an attaboy. They're always giving each other a pat on the back. They're always supportive of one another during the performance, after the performance, before the performance. They're always, always, always champions to and for one another whenever the opportunity arises. Even when somebody makes a misstep on the team that causes the team to take a hit in the score or their field positioning or whatever is going on, even in business, it's the same way. You're going to find that a positive and supportive team comes to the rescue to ensure that that team member does not feel the brunt to their self-concept and their self-confidence that will make them not perform at a high level the next time, right? They're trying to reinforce, this is all brain chemistry, right? When you're performing at a high level and you know you're performing at a high level and everybody's valuing what you're bringing to the table and everything's happening, your brain is producing chemicals, right? Your brain is producing chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. It's the dopamine and the serotonin that gives you that personal satisfaction that you're doing well, that you're creating meaning, significance, and relevance. And then, because you're working in a team, guess what? You got a lot of oxytocin that's being produced. That's the love drug, right? That's that feeling that, I'm a part of something bigger than me. It's a we thing. That's what's created when your team is supportive and your team is conducive to your growth and development. That will help you take risks and try new things in a better way that you ever could before, in a faster, more consistent way. This is why people who grow in teams grow faster than people who grow outside of teams. You're trying to do it by yourself, then you're slowing, you're retarding your growth. But if you do it within a team, and the team is helping you produce serotonin, right? It's helping you produce all the good hormones you have to produce to make you feel good, the oxytocin. The last thing that your team helps you do when you're doing well is you're going to get a boost in your testosterone. Now, if you're a man, you kind of know what this is all about, right? Testosterone makes you feel strong. It makes you feel like you can conquer the world. Now, it could go south quickly, right? When These things are not used to produce goodwill, satisfaction, high performance. These same chemicals can work against you when the team has a toxic environment, when the communication sucks, when people don't feel like they belong, when people don't feel like they're appreciated, when people don't feel like anybody has the level of respect they should have for them. Then all of a sudden, your brain starts to again rewire itself and produce very similar chemicals, but these are the chemicals that make you feel unsatisfied, weak. These are the chemicals that make you know that, what, you suck. Who wants to be on a team and constantly remind themselves that's a constant reminder of everything that's negative? Who wants to put 40, 50, 60 hours a week into work that all it does is reinforce a whole lot of negative energy that ends up causing problems individually, personally, to the team members? So I don't know how many of our listening audience is familiar with this, but as a fraternity guy, I've had to endure some things in my young life that maybe were not conducive to developing personal satisfaction. Had to, let's just call it what it is, deal with hazing, right? And it wasn't the first time I had to deal with hazing. I had to deal with hazing as a Boy Scout. I had to deal with hazing as a church member. I had to deal with hazing in my family. I had to deal with hazing in my neighborhood. We had different words for them. Those same things, we called it bullying. We called it all kinds of different negative words, right? I had to deal with hazing every day as a Black man in our society. Work. Every time I get in the car and drive, I have to concern myself with, there's a term called driving while Black. Right? I have to concern myself with that because I don't know who's going to pull me over because they just don't like the fact that I'm driving a nice car, or they saw me coming a mile away and decided, well, he doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Let me pull him over. Let me think about. Let's see what he must be up to something. The preconceived notions that people sometimes carry, and a person with a gun and a badge who carries those kinds of preconceived notions represent a dangerous element that people who look like me will always have to deal with. It's unfortunate, but it means that we have to be in threat state all the time. And when you're a minority of any type, you know what I'm talking about. You've had to deal with, by the way, everybody has to deal with threat state, especially when their status is in question. That's what we're talking about. So how do we fix some of this stuff? What do we need to do as leaders? I want to give you a series of exercises that you can do. Some of them are based in things we've always known historically, because I pulled them out of the Bible, and I know human beings are, have always been talking about and writing some of these things. But I'm going to share some of the things with you that I think are critically important. One of the key things that you need to do in your team's operations, no matter what, is collect data, collect feedback. Be good at getting as much feedback as you possibly can. Every team member has to do this. Has to be good at getting as much feedback, appreciating the feedback, whether the feedback is negative or positive, and then using the feedback to create a new reality that you need to create, either in the team, for yourself, or whatever. But feedback is essential to developing and training or reskilling in an area that's important for you to do that in. You don't collect the right kinds of feedback before you start your performance, during your performance, after your performance, all the time, right? You're collecting and gathering as much feedback as you possibly can, assessing the quality of the feedback, deciding what I'm going to do with this feedback, then you're going to get better and better and better. And if continuous improvement and always satisfactory results are things that are important to you and important to the team, you're going to be having to need and use feedback really, really well. There are areas of feedback that you might not be thinking about. There's feedback from the political, social, and economic, and even spiritual environment that you find yourself in. You got to pay attention to that stuff too. You can't just ignore what's going on externally and think that it doesn't affect what's going on internally. And that's within yourself and within your team. You must know that we're all participating in some kind of political science experiment, right? That's bigger than us. We're all participating in some kind of social science experiment that's bigger than us. We're all participating in an economic and spiritual science experiment that's bigger than all of us. And we have to figure out, what effects those things have on us. And we have to pay attention to the feedback we're getting from those areas and our ability to be successful in those areas or in spite of those areas. Because not getting the feedback from the social, political, economic, or spiritual realms, I think is doing a lot of damage to people who are thinking, I'm just going to stick to my knitting. I'm just going to have that tunnel vision. I'm just going to focus on the things that I need to focus on. And the things that you need to focus on are not like right in front of you. They're all over the place. There's a term I'm going to talk to you about right now. I should have talked to you about it earlier, but I'm going to talk to you about it right now because I get to understand. A team that's not mindful of its environment, leaders that are not mindful of what's going on and internal to the team and external to the team, are doing more damage to the team long term than not. Again, if your focus is just on the quarter, if your focus is just on the half of the year or maybe even the year, you may be able to have tunnel vision and only focus on what's right there in front of you. But if you have a bigger vision for your team that goes beyond a very, very minute period of time, you're going to have to assess the micro and macro level feedback that you're getting, because it's all a part of your success. It's all a part of what you're going to eventually be able to be effective and efficient in doing, right? Another thing you want to make sure, you want to have readiness checklists. There should be a level of readiness that your team has for every aspect of its success. And in order for you to understand that, and to get to the true power and possibility that you have on your team, you need to create what I call a readiness checklist, right? You need to have, if there's any level of unease or known risk that anyone on your team can share, then it needs to be showing up on one of your readiness checklists. And you need to reward that team member for bringing that issue to your attention, because that's going to allow you to create risk mitigation strategies that actually work. But if you're not thinking, every for checkpoints along the way, how are we doing? What can we do better? What do we miss? What do we need to pay attention to next time we're at this? If you're not creating a list of things to work on and fix, and then create training around it or reskilling around with that particular area, then you're going to fall victim to that area more and more and more and more, and it's going to become harder and harder and harder to make the changes, to make the switches, to create the environment that you're trying to create for yourself and your team, right? I would suggest this is critically important. This next thing I'm going to share with you. You have to have a higher authority than yourselves. The mission and the vision of your team needs to be universally acceptable. It needs to be something, and when I say universally acceptable, it's got to be something the universe wants, right? It has to follow along the principles that are universal. The biggest example I could give you is, this one. It doesn't matter what your team's goals are or your team's objectives are. If those objectives run against some very basic and natural principles that exist in our lives, your team is going to experience a significant amount of failure, setback, and maybe even negative consequences of various types. Right? If your team has decided as a goal, they're going to break the law of gravity. I don't know what to tell you. Number one, it's a stupid goal, right? Because, you know, the Wright brothers tried it and realized that until they invented a new way of dealing with Bernoulli's principle, they could not even escape the gravity. They still couldn't escape the gravitational pull of the Earth. What they did was, when they developed the airplane, was create a system on a tool that could fight against the gravitational pull of the Earth. They didn't change the law of gravity. They accepted the law of gravity and created a tool that could work within the law of gravity. So they didn't break it. They didn't change it. They didn't escape it. They lived within the accepted law, the accepted principle, the rule that's universal, and then figured out a way to fly anyway. So again, they didn't stop gravity, right? Because gravity is universal. Gravity is principle, like many other universal principles. If you find yourself, no matter how creative or innovative or strong your team is, if you find yourself unable to perform well, you're probably working against a basic human law. And there's no getting around that. Your vision and your mission must be higher than what you can ever do by yourself if your team is going to breathe that rare air of human possibility and get to the levels of capacity that no human being can get to by themselves. You're going to have a great team. There's another thing I want you to imagine, I want you to think through when it comes to putting a high performance team together is your vision. Your vision cannot be your vision for the team. It has to be the team's vision for itself. And each and every team member needs to feel themselves responsible for the creation and the manifestation of what that vision can bring. So if you have put together a team and you haven't done a collective vision and mission development workshop with each other, then you're going to find that there's going to be people on the team that just don't identify with the team. They don't identify with the team. They don't identify with the calling. They don't think the destiny of the team is going to be right. They don't feel like, they don't see themselves aligned with the vision, the mission, the goals, the strategy, the technique. Nothing is going to work well, again, long term, if you don't create that kind of alignment that can only be created when a team has high levels of trust in themselves and each other and have communicated in a high level way to make sure that the mission and the vision is something they can all be passionate about. Not equally passionate, but all passionate. Because if you have someone on the team who's not passionate about achieving the mission or the vision, they're not going to be passionate about achieving the goals. They're not going to be passionate about creating an effective strategy. They're not going to be passionate about anything. And so they won't be able to answer this question. And here's the next question that I think all teams have to answer. And this will let you know that your vision is correct or good enough, so to speak. The question is, when we arrive at a perfect position, which is the fulfillment of our vision, what will we be able to do, be, and have at that point? If what you're able to do, be, and have at the point of achieving your vision or getting close to your vision, if you don't have those things, you can't see yourself, actually your team actually achieving and being and doing those things, then your vision isn't strong enough. If your team can't see it, if they can't taste it, they can't feel it, they can't believe in it, your vision is not strong enough. And it may be that There's members on your team who are just dispassionate people. You know, they don't have that kind of connective tissue. They can't see themselves growing with or through or beyond with other people. You know, they're so self-centered and so egocentric that it's difficult for them to see how connecting to others is going to manifest itself into greatness. But I want to share with you this: there is no such thing as individual greatness. If you have a team that's a bunch of individuals, that's true. But if the team is not working together well, then they will never achieve the real unlimited potential that a strong group of individuals can actually achieve. And so as individual growth and development goes, I'd rather work with high performance teams because I'm going to grow as an individual faster and stronger than I would working by myself. So growth is important. If extensive capacity is important, then I'm telling you, you have no choice but to learn how to collaborate well within a high performance team. Because your individual contributions are only going to be as good as what matters to that high performance, right? It's very, very important that you get that and understand that. Another thing I want to share with you, then I'm going to close up and make sure I got this right. And it's really the last thing I think is important. A high performance team needs to do everything it possibly can to develop the faith in the team, in each member of the team, and as a collective, and the higher authorities that make the team work. And there is no higher authority, in my opinion, than the creator of the universe, who pulled all this thing together, who provides all the assets, who provides all the resources that we all need to reach and exceed our own human capacities. But we have to find the ways that create higher levels of belief in each other, in ourselves, and in the great God above. Now, I say that not to say let's get you off on a religious tangent or even a spiritual one. But I want you to understand there's an undercurrent in our human nature that feels like there's something better and bigger than ourselves. And if we try to serve that, we try to serve that emotion, we try to serve that feeling, we try to serve that passion, then we find that we're able to be more resilient, be stronger, be more effective, work towards more efficiency, create more with each other, because we understand that inside of each other is a greatness that if we can help tap into, then we can collectively move anything forward. We can do anything and all things. And so I hope that you've gotten something out of today's workshop. I know I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the feedback and the communication with everyone here. The party's going to go and continue to go because if you know, this has been broadcasted on YouTube as well as on Facebook and will continue to be available for anybody who wants to reach out and do things. My information has been continually flashed on the screen. My website is there. My phone number is there. Please don't call me. Please text me because I'm probably not going to answer the phone, but I will respond to a text quite readily. That's the 9-Step Guru is a hashtag I use on all of my social media accounts. So whatever social media you're using, you plug in 9-Step Guru, you're probably going to get to me and see a lot of stuff that I've posted. I share a ton of free resources and things that I've developed over the years. I'm going to put my Howard University hat back on. Give a shout out to my my Bison friends out there and all my HBCU buddies. I love you all. I hope you all have a successful time of everything you're doing, especially those of you all who've braved the entrepreneurial waters and started businesses for yourself. This show is dedicated to you. This show is dedicated to those small women-owned minority businesses that don't get a chance to have these kinds of discussions and dialogues because they're so busy trying to keep everything afloat, and they don't really have the access to some of the greatest training and tools that are out there. Um, I hope to be a part of that for you and hope to give you the resources that you need. As a matter of fact, I'm going to post in this chat for the last time, if I can get my act together, um, the 9 steps to masterful networking. And we covered the last step today. And you'll be able to get this. I'm going to pull it up from my Google Drive. And you'll be able to get this and use this if you follow today's chat. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to participate in it. And you'll be able to download it to your own hard drive, which I highly suggest that you do. And I'm going to post it for you guys right here. Boom, there it is. It's in the chat. I've also posted some things in the chat that are related to my LinkedIn profile. If you go up to the higher links in the show, earlier in the show, you'll see the links from those things. Um, this is a link to communication I did about how to be more effective in teams. So you'll enjoy that when you get a chance. And that's it, guys. I'm going to call it quits for the day. I had a great time, and I hope you did as well. We're going to end the broadcast right here, and we'll see you next week. Ciao for now.